Well, good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, Marty.
Welcome to April.
I know, April 1st.
April Fool's Day. We were thinking about the possibility of starting our podcast today by saying, "Oh, and by the way, accountability doesn't really work."
April Fools.
April Fool's.
Yeah, I'm glad we decided not to do that.
No.
Wow.
Well, we're just two wild and crazy guys.
Yeah.
Something in the air. We have a lot of things that we talk about. I'm thinking I have a mental image of your board that you have in the background when you do your digging in the dirt meeting on Saturday mornings. And one of the things that is always useful to review is the obstacles to what we say we want,
Right.
or the obstacles to what we don't know yet that we want. And one of those things that we were talking about before we hit the record button is the role of story, the stories that we tell ourselves. And I thought maybe you might have some thoughts or insights about how that works and what we do about it.
One of the things I discovered in my own recovery, I don't know who it was, but somebody said that I do not have an autobiographical story. So when I talk about my life, I talk about those people, how come this, the government, and I wasn't a main player. I was always the one getting beat up or making excuses for myself for some behavior. And that's what I mean by the story. When I go through the obstacles, and I'm going to go through them in case somebody isn't familiar with them, what we do first is ask the people in the group, what do you want that you do not have? And it's a character asset that you might see in other people. And it could be a sense of feeling safe inside your own skin. It could be having a sense of inner peace or self-love. So we identify what I want that I don't have. Mine was inner peace, a moment where my mind was quiet, not full of chatter and confusion. And what I come to understand, that my mind full of chatter is the story I'm creating around what's happening to me in the moment, instead of being in the moment, feeling whatever I'm feeling. So the first obstacle are the conscious and subconscious experiences that we've had. And 7/8 of our experiences have been relegated to our subconscious, although subconscious still active in providing us information whenever we make a decision about who we want to be with or not, or what we want for dinner, actually. And we don't know it. And the 7/8 that's subconscious is where we hold our trauma. And then the second obstacle are the beliefs, perceptions, and patterns of behavior that we developed based on our unique experience. And then the third one are the expectations that we have of ourselves and others. The story about what's happening to me, or the way I describe it, is actually keeping me from feeling whatever feeling I might be in at the moment. In my family of origin, dysfunction and childhood trauma, I was criticized, humiliated, ridiculed in my developmental process from 1 to 7, 7 to 14. Whatever developmental process I could have been in, I was shut down from my feeling body because of the expectations of my parents, let's say. And those expectations translated into, how come you, why are you always, don't you know any better? I remember my mother saying, think. It's like, and I'm like frozen in this traumatic experience, because I have no idea what she's talking about. And I know I just did something wrong. So I stuffed that in my body. And then when right now I'm a 70-year-old man, as a 45-year-old man, somebody would say, can't you think about it? And I would flip, because, and then I'd either attack or defend. And in the attack, who do you think you're talking to? Don't talk to me like that. Or what's wrong with me? I'm stupid. That's the story. And it's couched in all the expectations that we have based on our experience, subconscious, conscious, the beliefs, perceptions, and patterns of behavior we find ourselves in, and then the expectations that we have. And the expectations are articulated generally in the story about what happened. For instance, my first wife, I divorced her after 11 years. My story was that I've been over backwards. I worked 24/7. I bought her a house on property. I fixed all the property up, and I was remodeling the house. And as I laid the last tile in and the house was going to be complete, she told me to get the hell out. So that was my story. And I was in a workshop one time and I told that story. And then somebody said, tell that story from your power. And I thought, oh, what really happened? I was married to this woman for 11 years. Things were working for the first 3 years. After that, I didn't know how to tell her that this wasn't working for me. So I did everything I could to piss her off so that she would ask me to leave. And it took 8 years for her to get up, for to be of my abuse, for her to tell me to get out. That's the real story. And that's the autobiographical part, the story. The other story was about her and how much work I did, and she didn't appreciate me. And I was setting it up so that I look like a victim, although I didn't know at the time that I was setting it up. I was just giving people the information about how bad my first wife was. And in the intentional living accountability tree process groups, we listen to the story, and then we ask questions about what was the feeling that went with that, what was your part in that, what are some of your character defects that you bring to whatever relationship you're in, like arrogant, entitled, mean, controlling, and needy. And instead of telling the story about what's happening, we just own the character defect. I don't know if that's clear or not. Now, maybe you got a couple questions or so to bring me back.
Well, yeah, some observations as I think about my own life. I wanted to tell you the story. This is some autobiography. When I was in my 30s and I had moved to California from Michigan, where I grew up, and for reasons I won't go into, I found myself in therapy. I found myself for the first time in my life regularly visiting and speaking with a therapist. And eventually this guy led me to Adult Children of Alcoholics, ACA. And so I'm in my ACA meetings and I'm doing some research into where ACA comes from AA. I didn't know much about AA at the time. So 12 steps, all that stuff. And I was asking myself the question, I'm in ACA, I'm in Adult Children of Alcoholics, I'm an adult child of alcoholics, I'm codependent. So what is my addiction? And I to the best of my ability with what I knew then, and that was 30 years ago, I wasn't addicted to alcohol. I wasn't addicted to drugs. I was smoking cigarettes, but I got rid of those pretty easily when I decided to quit. So I wasn't really addicted to nicotine or tobacco. So I just was looking at the pattern of my life and where the stress points were. And I came to the conclusion, or the tentative conclusion, that I was addicted to drama.
Yeah.
And what I noticed, and what led me to notice that, was this very same observation that I heard you make, which is I was noticing that I would get most stressed and upset in my life when I was seeing myself as the victim of circumstances.
Yeah.
And not only did I see myself as the victim of circumstances, but I would find myself drawn to that. So what I began to understand, I didn't understand the notion of story yet. I just understood that there was some psychic reward I got for dramatizing the things in my life that weren't really dramatic, except that I created them that way.
Yeah.
And the drama was always that I was the victim of somebody else. Particularly, this was most acute in my dating life and my relationship life. I found myself attracted to guys who would dump me as soon as they got a chance, and it was always their fault. And what's wrong with them? And I did my best, and I'm very loving, and blah blah blah. And so I realized that. I mean, I did this all on my own, not necessarily with help from my therapist, but mostly because I'm sitting in ACA meetings and I'm listening to people talk about their experience. I just had to draw the conclusion that what did my experience with all these dating situations have in common? Me.
Right.
So I had to go. Again, this was long before accountability. I had to draw the conclusion that it was my stuff, and I wouldn't have used those words in those days. It's like, I'm addicted to drama, and that's more or less where I left it. But drama is a story.
Yes.
The way it was showing up for me was it was a fully scripted, fully produced. In my mind, I could hear the music and the actors and actresses all playing their parts. And also the other thing that began to clue me in on this is, as I think I hinted, is that the story was always the same story.
Yeah.
I mean, the players' names changed and some of the external conditions changed, but the actual story, when you stripped it down to, boy meets girl, that kind of thing, it was always the same thing. But it took me till I got to here in working with you in accountability, starting 10 or 12 years ago, that I finally got what was really going on. And that story was it was part of the deal. It was part of the defense. It was part of the reaction. It was part of that's the way I kept safe. Was by insulating myself in the story.
Yeah.
Insulating myself from those actual people, those actual conditions, those actual events that were my experiences, not allowing myself to be vulnerable, not being able to say this hurts, not being able to say, I don't know what to do. Right. Not being able to say, will you help me?
Right. Oh my God. Especially that one.
Those things were just not in my awareness yet. So I knew that I had this, I don't know if it was an addiction, but I certainly had an attraction to dramatizing things. And so I could kind of note that when it was happening, but I didn't have the second step to our process, which is, what do I want? I didn't. Right. I just knew what I didn't want, but not wanting that did not bring me something else. It tended to loop me back. Even in consciousness, it still tended to loop me back to getting back into the story. Yeah. Because I didn't create an alternative yet.
For me, the story was the reality. And other people could see my story and they would like, why are you always beating yourself up? And I would go, I'm not beating myself up. I'm just telling the truth. And what happens, the story is a way to stay out of my trauma or my body, because I was trained as an infant and toddler and young boy to stay out of my body, because when I was in my body is when I got hurt or chastised or abused. So the patterns of behavior that I developed, which are in the story, were coming from my subconscious. So I'm not consciously aware of what I look like or how it looks to other people. Other people could see it. There's a saying in I don't know, divorce court, you're always the last one to know. It's like the guy that gets left, he's always it's like it's a surprise. Why are you leaving me? I'm such a good guy. And they're always the last one to know. And what I figured out is, yeah, because they're acting from their subconscious and they're not aware of the behavior. And in the therapeutic community, they use the word denial as an accusation, like you're in denial.
Yep.
And they even have an acronym for it. Don't even notice I am lying. Well, no, that wasn't my truth. I was telling the truth as I saw it, and I had facts to back it up. And I was stuck in this loop. And until somebody was brave enough, and I put myself in a situation where I was open at the same time to hear some truth, like, John, you're mean. And it was like, what are you talking about? And then I realized, somebody explained to me, I went to my violence intervention group. They used to call it Batterers Reeducation, but they changed the name because not too many men want to identify as a batterer. But I'm letting you know, I've identified as a batterer, because a batterer is somebody who uses emotional, verbal, and sometimes physical violence to control their environment. And their environment includes specifically the people they say they love the most. So I learned that emotional violence is anytime you dismiss, ignore somebody, or redefine their reality. Like somebody says, oh, I feel sad. And I would say, well, why are you sad? No, you shouldn't be sad. There's nothing to be sad about. So I'd redefine what they were saying. Verbal violence is simply raising my voice is threatening. I had no idea that that was a threatening gesture. I was just like, I'm passionate about what you asked me a question. I'm going to fix you, and I'm telling you, and you're not listening to me. All that stuff. And then verbal violence is threatening, objectifying, calling people names, and diminishing them, making them of less value. And what this guy told me in this class is, all those things I just said, you do to yourself first before you do that to. And when he defined all the different types of violence, and then he said, the way out is to stop the blame and be accountable. It was like I felt this wash through me. I didn't understand it, but I felt and I got that he just gave me a path to my own salvation or my own enlightenment. And I just sat there in this space of I didn't really understand it, but I knew I was going to stay. And as we went through this year-long process, for me turned out to be a year and a half, I discovered the character defects that were hidden from myself. It's like when I realized, oh my God, I'm violent, emotionally, verbally, and sometimes physically. When I put my hands on somebody without their permission, that's physical violence too. And for a whole year, I practiced being accountable. Every time I dismissed, ignored, redefined, threatened, objectified, or diminished somebody, or put my hands on somebody that without their permission. And for a year, every week I would come in and say, I did this type of violence. I was emotionally violent by dismissing. I was verbally violent by raising my voice. It was my choice. I was getting it. I was choosing that from my story, because what would you do if somebody was attacking you? And it's like, and what I considered an attack was asking me a question I didn't want to hear at the time. One example of one of those questions is, how come you're late? it's like, boo, it's like I went into this monster thing. And like, who do you think you're talking to? You can't talk to me like that. I work hard all day long. And it's like, whoa, stop. Instead of answering the question, I would use emotional and verbal violence to sidestep the question. Instead of saying, telling the truth. And for the most part, I didn't want to tell the truth. I'm late because I don't want to be here. I'm late because I'm unhappy. I couldn't say that. Or I'm late because I'm a philanderer. I mean, I wouldn't, it's like, or, you know, sometimes I'm late because of traffic. After a period of time, after this class, and I was in a relationship, and my partner would say, where have you been? How come you're late? I would simply tell her why I was late. I was either talking to somebody, and I owned that as dismissing her by not calling her and letting her know where I was, because I see that you're worried about me, that you love me enough to be concerned about where I'm at, because you had no idea. I could have been in the hospital. Yes, so okay, I'll make an agreement with you that if I'm ever late again, I will call. And then I keep that agreement. So how do we get this back to the story? The story I was telling myself was, I'm a nice guy. I work hard for you. It's like I would, whenever I got told that I did something that in my mind was wrong, I would turn it back on them. I wouldn't have done that because if you hadn't, or this is just the way I am. You want to change me. You don't like me the way I am. I would use all these stories instead of just, well, I didn't know. That class that I went to was called Man Alive. And that first class I went to, when that guy explained what violence was, laid it out, defined it, emotional, verbal, physical. And I got that I was a violent man, because he told us, he says, this class is for violent men. And he listed the violence. He says, if that doesn't fit you, you're simply in the wrong class. You can go. And no, I wasn't, that did apply to me. So I stayed. So I got out, see, that's out of denial. That's owning the truth about myself. And I didn't say anything. I didn't tell a story like I'm violent because she is da 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 da. No, I'm violent. And I worked in that class. It's only a year long, and I stayed for a year and a half because I wanted to stop my emotional and verbal violence, because I was mean to the point of cruelty, which I had no idea. And I started owning that. I got out of my story about what's happening into my actual behavior and own the behavior. And one of the things about this is when I owned the behavior, I saw it then as a behavior, not my essence. Like from who I am, I chose to be violent. Based on my history, childhood trauma, that's in alignment. That's in alignment to what happened to me as an infant, toddler, and young boy. It hurts. It causes separation and it causes destruction. Yes, for me to not understand that I don't have defenses, or that I'm scared of getting close to somebody, this is subconscious. I wasn't, you asked me as a 45-year-old man, are you scared of women? Hell no. But as soon as a woman raised her voice, it was like I was this, I want to say screaming Mimi, violent, slamming the door, running out. Who are you talking to? So yes, I had to own my fear of women, so I could sort out the behavior from trauma and the essence of who I am. So in my childhood, I got identified with my behavior. I am bad. No, according to my caregivers, that whatever I just did was bad. It wasn't me. And I was a child learning emotional regulation, impulse control, frustration tolerance, and delayed gratification. That's what I was supposed to be learning. I didn't like come out of the womb knowing emotional regulation, frustration tolerance, delayed gratification, and impulse control. That was the process that my guides, my guardians, were supposed to assist me through, instead of expecting me to know how to act right and then chastising me for when I don't. I got a story with, I was sitting with my grandson yesterday and we're playing war. And the first two games, I won quickly. So he, in the middle of the second game, you know, you play the war, 3 cards, and then you flip over. I won, and there were 2 of his jokers in there. He went ballistic, started crying. I don't want to play this game. I went over to console him, and he ran away from me. I don't like you. No. And I just said, okay, I see you're frustrated. I see you're angry. Yeah, it's difficult. It hurts when you lose, huh? And he just said, I don't want to talk to you. And then he came back and we played another game. And as we were going through it, and he was losing again. And he started crying again. And then we kept playing, and he goes, Grandpa, I held on to that pretty good that last time, huh? And I said, yes, you did. Yes, you did. And he says, let's play another game. I want to see if I can hold on to it throughout the whole game. I was like, in gratitude for all the work I've done, because that young man got to experience himself in his anger and his frustration and not be chastised, ridiculed, humiliated, or told he was doing it wrong. And just simply, he could just be upset, come back and self-regulate. I'm telling you, Marty, it was, I want to cry right now, because it's like what I've been working for all my life, is to be able to be in the presence of somebody and allow them just to be. He's a 6-year-old boy. He's learning frustration. I don't like to lose. When he gets my aces, I'm miffed. But I have the emotional regulation. I can go, okay, it's like, it hurts to lose, especially if it's fun winning. Okay, so how do I regulate that and stay in the game? That's exactly what he told me he was working on. It was, oh my God, fantastic. It's like, wow. And when his mom got home, I was like bending her ear about how good her son is, because he did that. And you know, I'm going to take credit, because she and myself have done this work. We've owned all the character defects. I don't have anything to hide. If somebody said, John, you're a liar, and I go, yeah, I know, I'm working on it. It's like, sometimes I used to tell lies just to be telling lies. I had no reason to tell lies. And that's in alignment with my family of origin dysfunction. I'm not blaming the family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma. I'm saying it's a motivation for this avoidant behavior, whatever it is. When I own the avoidant behavior and stop telling the story about my behavior, I can transmute that old information, fill it with, it is my intent to be kind, it is my intent to be gracious, it is my intent to be a loving, nurturing, caring grandfather, father, and participant in my community. And that intention manifests just like the intention people hurt me manifested. This intention, and I find myself in this, it's like I get blindsided by healthy behavior. I was like, when he said, Dad, Grandpa, I want to hold on to that, see if I can hold on to it. It was like, what? I was, wow, yeah, this shit works. It's like, yes, he's learning that. He doesn't have to go to the meetings we go to figure this stuff out, because he'll have that part of himself. He may have trouble, don't get me wrong. Life is a struggle. Life hurts. There's a lot of things exterior to us that we have to navigate through. With our connection to our emotional feeling body, we can do that well, not pain-free, not frustration-free, not irritated, agitated, otherwise annoyed-free, but we could do it, I move through my life with grace. And I do at times feel irritated, agitated, otherwise annoyed. And I breathe and I go, okay. So
not to mention being pissed off about losing.
pissed off about losing. Yeah, it's like, yeah, if you want to see adult men go bonkers, go on the golf course, it's like, shit, screw this, screaming. It's like, how come I'm so stupid? I just got to hit that ball. Myself included. Although it's like I give myself some grace. So anyway, wow.
Well, that's a gratifying story to hear about, Solomon. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about setting the intention. I intend to be a joyful loser, or maybe even along the lines of our accountability practices is I give myself permission to lose.
Yes. Yes. I was playing a game of Pinochle. This was a while back, 8 years ago, and I was playing with my brother. It's been a long time since we played, and I had gone through my violence intervention class. And when I used to play Pinochle, it was like cutthroat Pinochle. It's like throw the right card. What's the matter with you? And it was I wanted to cream everybody. Well, he had a hand that was really good. I think I got 1 or 2 tricks for people who know about Pinochle. Anyway, and I mean, he just had, it was beautiful to watch. And after the game was over, and I looked at him and I said, Mark, that was a good game. You did that well. And he looked at me and he goes, you're a changed man. You're a changed man. Because usually I would like start screaming and yelling that he did this, that was stupid. He had he got all the cards. And no, I was actually happy for him that he was enjoying himself, although at my expense. But it was okay, because it's like competition is cool, and you can't have competition without people. And it's okay. It's okay. I enjoyed his company. I enjoyed the game. I forget who won ultimately the game, but it doesn't matter. It's like I enjoy.
As it turns out.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
as
not,
it turns
that's
out.
not what was important.
Right. What important is that we were spending some time together, having fun, enjoying ourselves.
I intend to have fun in my life.
There you go. I intend to have fun in my life too.
A couple of notes I took as you were sharing there, I'd like to maybe look at. One of the things I noticed from my own experience that I was sharing earlier, back when I recognized that I had this predilection for, or addiction to, making myself the center of my drama, is that, and just like your comments on this, is that oftentimes part of the way that this is sustained over the years is that I recruit people who are willing to collude in my story.
Yes.
And so part of the reason it gets difficult to move away from that, or to identify it, is because I've set it up and people are willingly participating for their same issues, or they're getting something out of it too by being in collusion with me. So we're all in this bizarre subconscious collusionary agreement where I say something about how I got victimized, and you go, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And did you ever ask him why he did that? Or
yeah, poor you.
Yeah. Or well, let me tell you how that happened to me.
Right.
And the energy remains in the cage of this dissociated place, so that I'm not feeling what the story was designed to help me avoid feeling.
Okay. One of the things I figured out, Marty, is that in my setting up the drama, the chaos in the drama, the chemical that was infused in my body was adrenaline. Fight, flight, freeze, please. The chemical that was infused in my body as an infant was adrenaline. Fight, flight, freeze, please, because I didn't understand the fractured energy. I had no idea what was going on, and the only thing I could do was soak it up, and my little body would go into an adrenaline rush, or there's other chemicals, cortisoids, stressors, to keep me alive so that I could survive the abuse. So I got addicted to the chemistry of drama, of chaos, of being attacked. And I actually subconsciously, remember, I didn't do this on purpose. I didn't wake up, I'm going to be an asshole. I would create the situations where I'd get an adrenaline rush, where I either fight, flight, and mine, for the most part, was I would freeze. I would go blank, and people, it usually scared people when that happened, and people kind of back off, and or dig at me more because I was in this freeze. Or please, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a adrenaline rush, physiological, chemical state. So the story enhances the chemistry of my childhood. The step trait 8, addicted to excitement. When Tony A first started making a list of traits of an adult child of an alcoholic, trait 8 was addicted to fear. He thought that probably people would not identify with that. So he changed it. And he was in a group consciousness. He was talking to a lot of people about how to enumerate these traits. He decided to go addicted to excitement. That's the whole trait 8, addicted to excitement. And when that first happened, I thought, no, that doesn't fit me. But excitement creates adrenaline. Go bungee jumping, adrenaline rush. It's like, or go, I don't know, some of those dangerous sports that I'll never do in my life, like jump out of an airplane. I could create that adrenaline. I didn't need a damn airplane. I didn't need a bungee cord. I could do it in my home at breakfast over burnt toast. It's like, and what in the, it's like, okay, I'm recreating my family of origin body chemistry, which was riddled with adrenaline, cortisol stressors. And that's how my body knew I would survive. So it recreated that without my awareness, without my permission, in my lifetime after time. And that's the addicted loop, the codependency loop, whatever the avoidant behavior, whether it's shopping, buying shoes, buying CDs, spending money because of the adrenaline, gambling. You ask a gambler, do they feel good when they win? No, I just like the gambling because there's an adrenaline rush. And
just before they turn that card over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like Solomon. You got my joker. So, and it's creating. I lost my train of thought, but that's good.
We're talking about generating adrenaline.
Addicted to
it's automatic,
and it's subconscious. I didn't know I was doing it. I just thought I was helping people, fixing things, building a case against somebody, and rightly so. Just look at the evidence. Facts show that person's an asshole. Come over, listen, look, see there's the asshole. And all I was doing was projecting that onto the person because I had no idea, really. Now that I'm in the state of being I'm in now, I have no idea what's going on with you. All I can do is assume, and with me knowing myself as well as I do, my assumptions are pretty astute, and yet I don't know if it's true until I ask you. You're the one that validates your body feeling, your state of being, not me.
One of the things that I noticed in working with people in our accountability meetings is when people are, this is not a universal rule, but oftentimes when people are struggling in their relationship with their partner, their significant other, and they start to get that the issue is not the issue.
Right.
And for me, the whole notion of a story is falls under that principle. The story is not the issue.
Correct.
The issue is not the issue. And then we also have the other principle that people treat me the way I want to be treated.
Yes.
What tends to happen is people start to learn to take responsibility for our own participation in whatever is going on in causing our relationships to be unhappy or to be dysfunctional or to avoid intimacy.
Correct.
And now the problem arises oftentimes that in essence, what I'm going to do with my partner is call a halt to the collusion. And this sometimes the partner who is expecting me to collude with him or her is not happy that I've decided not to do this to my partner anymore. And so
Right.
that's one of the challenges that people have when one of the partners starts to do this work and the other person is, for whatever reason, not doing it.
Correct.
And learning how to communicate in a way that doesn't implicate the partners not being involved in the same kind of work can often be a challenge for people.
Right. You change the rules of engagement.
Right.
And the other person is at a, well, yeah, actually, I was at a loss. If I said, oh, I'm being accountable to you for it's like, what happens then? You know, what do I do now?
Right.
It's like, and the my facilitator at the time said, pay attention, and the next time you do it, be accountable. That was his instructions: be accountable, dismiss, ignore, redefine, threaten, demean, objectify, lay your hands on somebody without their permission. Be accountable. And what I found that did for me was able to separate the behavior that was coming from that subconscious pool of information, and see that if I identified as a behavior, not who I am, not the essence of who I am, like a bad person, mean person, I have volition, I have choice. If the truth is I'm rotten to the core, what's the recourse? I mean, there's no recourse. I'm screwed. And when I realized, oh my God, that's in a line that no wonder I'm mean because of what happened to me. And again, this is not to blame my parents. This is simply to state the data that happened to me. Gabriel Monte said any addiction, illness, chronic, physical, mental, is a direct result of complicated, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder is not what happened to you, it's what you started thinking about what happened to you. It's your perception after the fact of what happened to you. And that's where the story comes in. That's where the story is built. Instead of saying, when I remember my dad sitting me down as a teenager saying I was the shame of the family. I just got out of juvenile hall. So I'm the shame of the family. Well, actually, no, I'm not. I did that to go to juvenile hall, and it was in alignment with, and I'm okay. Yes, and it is my intent to be honest. I kind of lost my train there. So, separating myself from my behaviors. I am a gentle, loving, empowering whole man. That's the 3 words I picked off of that essence sheet when I first started this, 93. And that's been my anchor. Did I just hurt somebody I love? Yes, I did. And I can be accountable for it. I learned to stop saying I'm sorry and state my accountability. That was my choice. I did that. And it is my intent to be kind. It is my intent to be loving. And then slowly but surely being accountable in the moment. I don't have to go to accountability because I'm acting out of my original essence energy, my authenticity, my genuineness, my compassion and kindness, which are all intents I created before I even knew what compassion and kindness meant. So
one of the things I'd like to do in the remaining time that we have is to acknowledge the deeper purpose of the accountability practice, which is to harness the same energy that I subconsciously use to create story and to create defense, to harness that, because the same energy is now available to me, has always been available to me, to create a different relationship with reality.
Yes.
That you use the word volition, that I can choose to be in reality, to be in the present moment, to accept myself just the way I am, to accept others just the way they are. That same mechanism that created the denial or the pretense or the story that something, that reality was a certain way, now comes to be my ally in creating the commitment and the intention to be 100% in awareness of what's going on, be able to be accountable, to be able to set new intentions as a regular practice. Oftentimes, particularly when we first get into recovery, we're so happy to find relief that we sometimes forget we're finding relief because we want something on the other side of relief.
Yeah.
And what I want, and I suspect is true for all of us, if not most of us, if not all of us, is I want authenticity. I want to be 100% in charge of my life to the extent that I have the power to do that. And I don't want to exile any part of me.
Correct.
So that just for particularly the newcomer to share that we have this power, we're born with this power, and it's manifest, the power is manifest in the fact that we learn without being formally instructed how to defend ourselves.
Yes. To
create emotional defense, and then eventually that emotional defense becomes a thinking defense, story, etc., explanation, what really happened, why I've got this, why I'm in prison, whatever. And the same power that allowed us to do that is also will allow us to create something entirely different.
Yes. It's using the power of the subconscious mind of my experience, harness that, and then say what you want. It is my intent to live in beauty, peace, and compassion. And it is my intent to live in beauty, peace, and compassion is a directive to this mechanism we keep talking about, the reticular activating system survival mechanism, to now seek and find for us beauty, peace, and compassion. Because if I knew how to get to beauty, peace, and compassion, I'd already be there. And there is something that created the mess I'm in, internal, which now I own that. So it's now out of the shadows, like I mean, and it's with good reason. It's in alignment with the trauma. People hurt, so it's good to keep people at a distance, and meanness is a good tool for that. I go, oh, it is my intent to be kind. And then I experience myself in close proximity, and what I thought was going to happen didn't happen. And I have a new experience. I said, oh, she was concerned about me, and she was actually really worried about me. That's why the tone that she used. Oh, I see that the same incident that proved to me that you didn't love me is the incident that validates your love for me. It's like, this is bizarre. This is like crazy making. It's like, holy cow. And I could not see it. Now it's obvious to me. Of course you're concerned about me. I told you I'd be here at 8 o'clock and it's now 10:30. It's like, where the hell am I? I get it. Yeah, that's reasonable that you're concerned. There's all kinds of things going on out there. You don't know what's going on unless I tell you. So.
And it's possible that my partner actually loves me.
Yes. which is, yeah, and a wounded child being told you're loved might be a trigger for backing away.
Well, and again, that might be why we hear these things the way we do, is because we're hearing them through the ears of defense.
Yes.
Rather than through the ears of connection and intimacy.
Correct.
I mean, I got it, after 12 years of doing this work, it's still there. I got a text from a friend of mine who wanted to confirm having dinner. And I read that as, you better be available.
Right.
as opposed to my friend wants to be with me.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Wow.
The beauty of the consistency of my defense. It's 70 years, it hasn't changed a syllable.
Right. Yeah. Same old
But-
story, different day.
But here's what, again, to look at the value of this work, especially for the newcomer. John once said, remember in this very podcast, it may not have been the first time you said this, probably wasn't, but the first time I heard you say, I revel in my character defects.
Yes.
We can also say I revel in my story.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we're doing in this work is by bringing attention to the way our subconscious defense mechanism is operating, the way that our complex PTSD mechanism is operating, we are now aware of when this happens, and we can make a choice rather than to become back into the story and feel the energy of the story. We can actually use the story as leverage to create something else.
Opportunity.
The
Absolutely.
story becomes a reminder
Yes.
for me.
Yeah.
And that for me, that's been one of the major mechanisms in doing this work, is that you talked about the reticular activating system a moment ago, that filter that we command to tell us what is allowed, what information is allowed in and what information is kept out of our
Right.
conscious mind.
Right.
We're essentially reprogramming that, and it actually works.
Yes.
So that, for example, when I got this text and I noticed this defensive reaction, and I said, oh, okay, what's really going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my friend is looking forward to being with me. So then I could respond in, I can't wait.
Can't wait. Yeah.
Instead of something like, why are you reminding me?
Yeah. You're not
What,
the
do you
boss.
think I'm stupid?
Yeah.
But
Wow.
without becoming aware of how that mechanism was working in me, that's how I would have responded.
Yes.
And I had the energy when I first saw that to respond that way. But
Yep.
then I had the awareness that that was what was going on.
Yeah.
And I could make a different choice.
Yeah. I
It's
call that
more like, it's almost exactly what your grandson went through yesterday, is he had an awareness. And I don't know how conscious he was of making a different choice, but he said, I want to test this and see if I can make a different choice.
Yep. If I can hold on to it, he didn't want it to get. I asked him, how did you feel? Where did
Right.
you feel it? And he pointed to his forehead. He said, I felt it right here, Grandpa.
Wow.
I said, yeah. So cool. And the last game, he emotionally regulated. He started, because I was on a streak. I was on a hot streak. I started winning, and I don't posture for him. We play the game.
Right.
And when he was done, he was sitting there, and I said, Solomon, I want you to know that you held those emotions really well this time. He says, thank you, Grandpa. He goes, yes, I did. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard for a 72-year-old man to do it. So I get it's going to be difficult for a 6-year-old. So yes. Wow.
That's exactly what's available to all of us.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, it's a great teaching moment. Look what he did. He saw what was going on.
Yes.
He became aware, and he spoke it.
Yep.
Or he owned it.
Yes.
And then he created an intention.
Yep.
To do something different.
Yep.
And that showed up for him.
It showed up for him.
And that's just what we're talking about here. That's what accountability is. I mean, we adults have a more sophisticated process here, but
a deeper, broader, longer story.
Right.
There's some information in cognitive behavioral therapy where they talk about thinking types, and it's like aggrandizement, catastrophizing, taking things personal, global thinking, and those are all conditions or traits of a survivor, childhood, adult childhood alcoholic, family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma, have these ways of thinking, personalize everything. Everything everybody does is personal. It's about you. catastrophizing, taking a little, in our language, we call it making a mountain out of a molehill. But that's also like an accusation, like you're stupid to quit making a mountain out of a molehill. Instead of, you're adding to the story to create the adrenaline that you're used to in your body because you survived. That's courageous, although you don't know it. It's like you're hanging on to survival. It's good for you. And how's it working for you? Let's try something different. It's like, and oh wow, I'm just so grateful that, number one, that you and I do this podcast, and that we have the meetings we have available for people just to start exploring this information and start exploring, why do I do what I do? It's like Romans 7:15. Why do I do what I do? I know the good thing to do, and I always choose the evil. It's like they knew it 2,000 years ago. Paul knew it, but he didn't say reticular activating system. He didn't say family of origin trauma. He said, he just named what was happening. Why do I do that thing I know I don't want to do? And I know the right thing to do, and I always do the thing I hate. It's like, okay, all right, let's answer that question. Because you think it's a good idea based on your experience as a child. It's a survival mechanism, and it's trying to keep you alive, although it causes all the pain, hurt, separation, and destruction that you find in your life coming from you. You address that shadow. I'm mean. Oh my God. And there wasn't even a thought that went with it. There was this feeling of, oh my God, this truth. It is my intent to be kind. There's a power in that statement of truth and then statement of intent. It fuses with that energetic frequency of the emotion, drops back down, transmutes the trauma to healing, and now it's not a barb, a thorn in my side, and I find myself just acting differently automatically. It's, oh my God.
And what's kind of interesting, if you're willing to extend the analogy, is that Paul knew the solution. And Jesus knew the solution. He said, the kingdom of heaven is within you and among you and around you. And what you need to do is go inside and allow the Spirit, which is what we do when we set an intention,
yep,
to transmute what's going on.
Right. Identify, transmute. You can't let go of something you don't know you've got.
Right.
It's in your subconscious. You're not aware. It's subconscious doesn't mean you're stupid. Subconscious doesn't mean you're doing it on purpose. Subconscious means you don't know. And it's active in your decision-making process. So the only way to like identify it is go to the results. Where do you find yourself? Well, I just yelled at my partner for the toast was burnt, for Christ's sakes. It's like, what am I doing? Oh, I'm mean. It is my intent to be kind. So.
Yeah. And we learn these simple things. What I learned is when I'm noticing that I'm feeling agitated or I'm feeling peckish against somebody, I stop and I go, okay, what's really going on?
Right.
What's the issue?
Mm-hmm.
I've done enough work to know that that's not the issue.
Right.
And so the story has no value anymore.
Right.
And I can just go inside and say, oh, I'm feeling unloved. I'm feeling lonely.
Right.
I'm feeling scared.
Right.
I'm feeling isolated. Okay, right. Well, cool. What do I want? It's my intention to feel safe. My intention to feel at ease. I intend to feel happy.
Yeah.
Oh, then shift happens.
Yep. Shift happens.
Exactly.
Good stuff.
Well, before we wrap up, as always, I'd like to, first of all, ask everybody who's watching this, if you're not a subscriber to our Intentional Living YouTube channel, would you hit the subscribe button and help us build our capacity to get this through the YouTube, the millions of other things on YouTube, to people who might be looking for us. Appreciate that. Yeah. Also, if you'd like to participate in any of the meetings that we all host through the Intentional Living network that we're part of, stay tuned after John and I are done talking, and you'll see a list of those meetings, what time they are. They're all on Zoom, so no matter where you live in the world, you have access to these, including the newest one, the one I'm facilitating, called Gut Check, where we're taking these principles that we see working for us in the psychological realm and seeing what application they might have in the physical health realm. And John's email address and my email address are also available, and we'll be happy to send you the link to any of those meetings that you might have interest in. So please feel free to come and join us. You don't have to do anything if you come to a meeting. You don't even have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, but we'd certainly welcome you joining us. The next one is, this is being recorded on a Friday afternoon. There's one tomorrow morning at 8:30. On Saturday mornings, this might be posted too late for that. Then you can come to the one Monday night at 6:30. These are all Pacific time. Tuesday afternoon at 4:30, Wednesday at 4, the new Gut Check meeting, Thursday evening at 6:30. So right now, 5 days a week, you can come to a meeting, and pretty soon it's going to be more than that.
All right.
So thanks, everybody. And John, as always, I'd like to leave you to have the last word.
I am grateful and I'm excited about our conversation today, Marty, about and focusing on what it means like you're in the story. Because when I first heard that, I had no idea what they were talking about. And once I got an inkling that I was creating this internal chemistry, is oh wow, I want something different. I got curious about this, so yeah, that's
Yeah.
my last word.
I'm with you. Thank you so much for your time, John.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you at the next one.
You got it. Thanks,
Take
Marty.
care.
Bye.
Bye.